Hey besties, it's Cam from the internet. This episode is brought to you by the fact that I've had a really long week and so I didn't actually have the brain cells to plan anything in particular that didn't involve me crashing out severely. But I don't want all of my crash outs to be public record on a podcast. Some of them are public record on TikTok, but that is beside the point. Okay, so let's talk about something that is reasonably escapist-ish, which is my descent into anime madness vis-a-vis the Apothecary Diaries, because what is a little bit of hyperfixation among friends? I wouldn't say I'm hyperfixated yet. I do have the potential to be, though. So if you're not familiar, the Apothecary Diaries is an anime based on a series of novels. It's set in an alternate reality of the Tang Dynasty, and it follows a young apothecary named Mao Mao who is technically illegally practicing medicine because as a woman she's not supposed to be allowed to practice medicine. She is kidnapped and sold into indentured servitude at the Emperor's palace, and using her medical knowledge, especially her special interest in poisons, she investigates a lot of mysteries within the palace, which catches the eye of a eunuch in the court named Jinshi, and he ends up utilizing her skills to solve more mysteries. And underneath all of that is a very hilarious undercurrent of Jinshi being super into Mao Mao and Mao Mao being like, I hate this man, get him away from me. She also becomes very aware of the power struggles and dynamics within the court and wishes she wasn't, I think, half the time. Mao Mao is basically like the walking embodiment of I accidentally became important at work and it's ruining my life, which I can understand and sympathize with. I'm not going to discuss any spoilers, so you're safe, mostly because as of this recording I've only watched one season, but I am having a blast, which is really funny because the Apothecary Diaries is not my usual fare, to the point where I'm actually a little bit surprised that I like it. Not because there's something wrong with it or me, I just don't typically have those tastes. I am typically a shonen anime girly to the max. Like, I have watched Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, of course, like those, that's my typical fare. However, I am, and I mean this so sincerely, a slut for yearning and slow burn romance. And when I tell you that the Apothecary Diaries could go neck and neck with the most yearningest, repressed, piningest fanfic out there, oh Lord, have mercy. It's great. I'm having such a good time. Jinshi is a total mess over Mao Mao, to the point where someone that Jinshi works with goes to Mao Mao and is like, please stop treating him like a bug because he needs to do his paperwork. And it's like low-key turning him on. And I just, when I'm not like dying of secondhand embarrassment for the man that has to do this on behalf of Jinshi to Mao Mao, it's just really funny because like, you don't get a good pathetic man in fiction anymore. And he's so pathetic. I'm saying that with like so much appreciation because as a bisexual, I can appreciate a pathetic man. When I started watching the Apothecary Diaries, the first thing that struck me actually had nothing to do with the yearning and the romance. I was told about that element of the story later by edits on TikTok mostly. I saw a couple of scenes out of context and was like, oh, that's what I have to look forward to. And that led me to binge watching the anime to get to the yearning, which I thought was going to happen in season 2. But no, it happens in season 1, which is just like, oh, what is waiting for me in season 2? More of this? Awesome. So that's fun. But more so than that, what struck me is how the Apothecary Diaries plays so well into tropes that normally I would despise, but because they're done so well, whether that's just tactfully or just humorously or just in general, it makes for a really engaging story. As an example, and this is most of why I don't engage with a lot of like romance related anime, is because a lot of it is predicated on the whole like I'm not like other girls sort of female character, which I don't like because that typically is with a heavy helping of misogyny, male gaze-ish stuff attached, and I am not about that life. However, the Apothecary Diaries is centered around a main character who is, for her time, very different from other girls, but she is nonetheless a girl's girl. She, in her internal monologue and her external actions, upholds and prioritizes every woman's right desire entitlement to be herself. She recognizes the inequities of the society in which she operates and is very clever at finding ways around it. She defends her fellow woman every single time without fail, and she weaponizes and leverages her social status to get what she wants, vis-a-vis, oh, well, you wouldn't attack a girl, would you? And then she goes and does whatever she wants because she can, and she can get away with it, and it's great. The entire anime really has just like a great cast of genuinely strong women, and not just like, I think in media, I have a gripe about how media has this like strong independent woman archetype that's like very one note. And like there are some women like that in the Apothecary Diaries. Strength comes in all different forms, regardless of gender. Strength is in beauty and eloquence and action and anything you can think of. And the show does a really good job of depicting the breadth and depth of strength that is inherent in anyone, regardless of gender, but especially in women, because there's so many archetypical problems with how media tends to show women. And as an aside, I did not know that Apothecary Diaries was written by a woman, and then I looked it up, and of course it was, which is just great. There's also a lot of really fun, like, style fashion. Feels like kind of the wrong way to say it, but like, I like the colors and I love the dress styles, the hairstyles. Like, I don't have a lot of hair to like actually mess around with, but I can appreciate a good hairstyle when I see it. And like, there's all these intricate like clips and combs and things that all the different women use. And like, I wish that I had some of those for myself because they look really fun and also functional. And also, I was horrified to realize when I was going to church on Easter Sunday that I did reflexively wear my hair in the same style as Jinshi. Jinshi wears like his hair like half back but mostly down. He's a very pretty man, and I am a bisexual who is not immune. And also that is how my gender is just like pretty anime man or whatever Attack on Titan's Hanji has going on. That's my gender. But yeah, it is a delightful anime. I'm having a great time with it. I am always surprised when the episodes end because they're only like 20 minutes long, and I'm used to like most shonen anime episodes that I've watched are 40 minutes. So it's like cut in half from what I'm used to, which is fine. I also feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about like Mao Mao a little bit more because first of all, her attachment to gender is really interesting because she's very tomboyish in the way that she speaks and like clearly views her femininity as like a tool. But what's more interesting about her is that she's into poisons, which is very funny. And also, like, I've seen a lot of people who say they headcanon her as autistic, which I do not feel I can speak on because I am not autistic, but I can definitely, as someone who has many people in her life that are autistic, I can see it. And I really enjoy how the narrative does not other her in that way. Like, the anime genre, which I believe is called shoujo anime, I don't know if that's actually right. I fear I would step in something if I tried to crowdsource what it's called, but like in this genre of anime, which is largely why I've stayed away from it up until now, like the common stereotype of these heroines seem to be like they're overly feminine and like soft-hearted in a way that gets them screwed over and like impulsive or careless, obsessed with romance, and there's nothing wrong with those types of heroines if that's what you like. It's just not what I like, and so I've not really like gravitated toward it. But Mao Mao is like the opposite in a way that feels very natural to her character and the role that her character plays in a narrative, like breaking it down from a storytelling perspective. But what really was interesting to me is the moments when she talks about her appearance that make it clear that it's a tool for her to use, and that's it. And adjacent to that, and I'm being vague on purpose because I don't want to like spoil season 1 for anyone, but there's a talk where she talks about like how, you know, makeup isn't just used to conceal things, sometimes it's used to put something else on. And what she's talking about is a very specific way that she alters her face's appearance to be like less desirable. Now, she grew up around a brothel. She grew up like directly aware of the dangers of the male gaze, the way that men's attention can be inherently dangerous to you physically. And that is, it's a very unfortunate commentary that this is happening obviously in like the Tang Dynasty era, and it's still conversations that women and girls are having today. In that same vein, like I grew up being told, depending on how attractive I looked or not, I would either get respect or get harassed and everything in between. And it was a moment of consciousness in the narrative that made me like incredibly sad that this is a thing that was happening. It was interesting to see because Mao Mao was talking about this to Jinshi, and his reaction to it was very telling of what kind of man he was. Because I will admit, as a character, up until that point, I wasn't sure how to feel about him, because I was like, okay, you are a man with inherent power in a society and in a structure within the palace that is like, you're so far above in the hierarchy women that you could be a total jerk about it. Oh, you're not? Great. Okay. He's just not like aware maybe of like exactly what kind of societal power he has, because like most men aren't, because that's they're raised to not be that self-aware. And so he's learning and growing as a man, it seems. Good for him. I'm proud of him. It is very interesting to see, set against this backdrop, all of the ways that women can undercut a culture, a society, a world that is not built for them, that is many times built against them, and still have things work in their favor. And I can also understand why that would be the most exhausting thing to do on the planet ever. Because here's the thing, going back to like my life for a minute, this has been on my mind lately. Growing up, I was always told I needed to wear makeup, have long hair, dress, 2 steps above what the men around me were wearing, because otherwise I wouldn't get taken seriously. And this was all in like a professional context, mind you. Like I was told, if you're at work, like if you're in the office and the men are wearing jeans and a button down, you need to be wearing slacks and a blouse. Like you have no wiggle room because you are a woman. And also growing up, my mom would always make sure to tell me, like, however sucky you think this is for you, it is worse for your contemporaries that are women of color, that are Black women, that are queer women. Like, so you could be worse, which, like, yes, and I am very aware of that. I do have a lot of shelter as a white woman and as someone who doesn't, like, quote unquote look queer, which there's a whole lot of nuance in that statement, but I'm straight passing in the work world on purpose because it's no one's business unless I make it. Getting older, I've noticed, like, in a couple of key ways that there are equal parts ways to get around the ways in which women are ill-viewed, but then also like have to struggle. So like on one end of the spectrum, I conducted an experiment starting the beginning of this year and going through the first quarter of the year at work, where I subtly shifted some parts of my appearance to see if it would get me more subconscious respect. And like, as a neurodivergent person, I have had to make myself a student of social engineering, not in a way of like manipulating people, but just because that is the only way I'm going to survive in a society not built for me, a neurodivergent person. And so, like, I would wear glasses in meetings. I would dress slightly nicer. Like, instead of wearing, a t-shirt with a small graphic on it, it would just be a plain colored t-shirt and a necklace, and I'd wear glasses, and I'd tie my hair up. Or I would wear, a plain colored sweatshirt with a necklace, tie my hair up, and glasses. And, like, just elevating my appearance ever so slightly, painting my nails because I talk with my hands a lot. And lo and behold, I got a little bit more subconscious respect from people that I work with, regardless of gender. It wasn't just men. And, I kind of figure that, like, presentation matters more than we think it does in work settings, but it was kind of disappointing to learn that that was the case. And yet I like having money, so I feel the need to keep doing that and keep performing in that way to advance in my career. And it's something that I can, like, live with. In the same vein, I know culturally in my country and in corporate America that accomplishments are very rarely celebrated, especially for women, unless it is marriage or having children. I also know that in the workplace, you typically get respect if you are married, more respect than if you're single, and that you get more respect if you are a woman who can do it all. Unless you have kids, then apparently, like, that's worthless and you're just looked down on. And there's all these different stupid nuances. And I also was doing some research and I found that statistically, single people were more likely to get respect at work if they were like a marathon runner, because that shows commitment and endurance and all these other things that you only get if you are a family man, as a man, literally. And so I am literally training to run a 5K, then a 10K, then a half marathon, then a marathon, solely so that I can continue to get respect from the people I work with, because I'm not going to get the social and cultural respect that I would get if I was married or partnered in any way or had kids, because I'm probably not ever going to get married at this rate, and I'm never having kids, and so I have to play the game. And so Mao Mao and I have both invested a lot of social intelligence and analysis into figuring out how to lever our very unique positions into getting what we want to survive. Like, Mao Mao wants to stay out of half of the things she gets sucked into. Most of the time, she's only really involved in that stuff because Jinshi asks her to be, or she witnesses something and then eventually gets sucked into it. She doesn't necessarily want to save people. She's just trying not to get in trouble. And in a similar vein, I don't necessarily care about climbing the corporate ladder so I can have the big fancy title and a corner office. I don't want any office. I like working from home. Thank you very much. But I do need career mobility because it is expensive to live as a single person. It is doubly expensive to live as a single person while chronically ill. And like, I need to keep making money. And so I will play the game for as long as I have to and as long as it takes, which is annoying. But anyway, on to more hilarious topics on the Apothecary Diaries. I do want to also say, every time I read about, think about anime, what I'm reminded of is the ongoing battle of which is better, dub or sub. If you've never seen anime, dub is what people use to refer to anime that was originally done in usually Japanese, and then recorded again in English. So the dub is when you are listening to it in English. The sub is original Japanese with subtitles. That's where the sub comes from. 9 times of 10, I prefer to watch anime subbed, mostly because I'm trying to learn Japanese and it's good to practice, because I don't know, when I'm 40 or 50 and can afford to leave the country, I would love to visit Japan, but I do not want to be that obnoxious foreign tourist that doesn't even try to understand the language endemic to the country that I'm going to. But I was told that the Apothecary Diaries was good dubbed, so I watched it dubbed. If you are a fan of Jujutsu Kaisen and have never watched Apothecary Diaries, you will be delighted or horrified to realize that Jinshi's voice actor is Gojo, because I cannot escape Kaji Tang. For some people, it's Bryce Papenbrook. For some people, it's Matthew Mercer. For me, apparently, it's Kaji Tang. I cannot get away from that man. So imagine my shock when I'm watching Jinshi and just going, oh, it's Gojo. Okay then, horrifying but true. He's a wonderful voice actor and his voice fits Jinshi perfectly. Jinshi is like really obnoxious at first. He's vain, he's spoiled, he's annoying, especially since we're seeing him through Mao Mao's eyes and it's just like, I want to strangle this man. Like, what is the matter with this guy? But his character progression is that much more rewarding to watch because you get to see him move slowly-ish toward being a better version of himself, and that is always a really fun, rewarding, vaguely hilarious thing to watch. He does have, like, he has a lot of social charm, he has a lot of, like, he's a lot going for him. The problem is that he knows that he has a lot going for him. You know, like, what I mean? Like, when someone knows that they've got it all going on and then they act accordingly, that's why Jinshi is so annoying to most people, especially Mao Mao. And me, sometimes. I look at him and I'm just like, you have problems. If I met you in real life, I would want to kill you, but you're just kind of, like, fun to watch. It's kind of adjacent to what I posted about this on Tumblr once. There's this thing that I started calling the John Murphy effect, because this is diving deep into my lore. I'll make a separate episode about my experiences in the fandom for the CW's The 100. But in The 100, there's a character named John Murphy. He became an unexpected fan favorite, and it was mostly because people saw that he was an absolute jerk. And it wasn't that they liked him as a character, it was that they wanted to follow his story to see what the heck happens to this guy because he was such a jerk. And in a similar vein, I started calling it the John Murphy effect when it's like a character that is so compelling to people because he or she or they are a terrible person in some way and people just want to, like, see what happens to them. That is what I have dubbed the John Murphy effect. And Jinshi, to a lesser extent, had that. I was like, you are the kind of person I would despise. What's going to happen to you? Kind of that sort of thing. So that's really fun and interesting to watch. So yes, there's my Friday diatribe on the Apothecary Diaries. It's a really interesting, funny blend of romance, mystery, politics, drama. Local woman becomes important at work and it's ruining her life. It's a lot of fun. And the characters are really interesting. And Jinshi's so pathetic. Oh, he's so pathetic over Mao Mao. It's the yearning. I won't go into detail because I promise no spoilers, but what I will say is that if you are the kind of person who loves the infamous, like, who did this to you, sort of like angst, hurt, comfort sort of scene from fanfiction, you are going to eat this up. Just trust me. It's It's so good. Bit of a shorter episode this week because of time constraints. I apologize for that. I had a really long week at work and kind of ran short on time. But thank you for joining me and for being here as always. It's a lot of fun to keep punting my thoughts out into the void and seeing what happens. And I'm going to try to get better at putting like video clips of this podcast on TikTok so people can like leave comments and talk back, because I know that that's something people like. It's mostly about trying to find a way to like cut clips from the video and put it out there without causing a bunch of extra work. It's not that I don't love y'all, and it's not that I don't love video editing. It's just that like I run short on time often, and I do need to sleep more than I currently am. So I'll try to figure out that happy medium eventually. But yeah, thanks for hanging in there with me. Thank you for joining me. As always, you can find me on all the other places linked in whatever counts for a description on whatever platform you're listening to or watching this on. My Substack is still going strong, and I'm always on TikTok doing what I do, shit posting. That's my swear word for the episode. I'm trying to limit myself to one cuss word an episode, and that was that. But yeah, until next week, make good choices, and I will see you then. Bye.